I'd lived in this same little town, gone to the same school with 23 kids my whole life. Every class has one, that weird kid nobody likes. I was daydreaming, so the teacher sent me out into the hallway where I couldn't distract the others. I never did my homework, never studied, but somehow I always passed my tests. My guidance counselor said, "You're clearly not college material, just get married, or maybe get a factory job." I was 17 years old, it was 1984, and I was a failure. Later that summer, I went to the county fair. Upside down in that brief moment when the Superloop pauses to change direction, the girl next to me said, "I just joined the Army. I leave next week." And I thought, oh, I can do that too. Suddenly, my escape from the cornfields was in sight. But it wasn't that easy. I failed the physical because I was underweight, and I was devastated. But they told me I could come back in 18 months to try again. Since I was stuck in the cornfields a little longer, I bought a car. And then everyone said, "Wow, your boyfriend has such a nice car." But it was a beautiful piece of junk. To drive it, I had to fix it. But to fix it, I had to figure out how, without the help of the internet. Finally, it was time to try again. Victory starts here. I sold the car and spent my first 6 months at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. In rapid succession, I learned several very important things about myself. This is what I look like when I'm listening. No wonder my teachers thought I was daydreaming. My eidetic memory, or actually I'm a bit ahead. You might wonder how I'm getting away with drifting off into space with drill sergeants and not being in trouble. My eidetic, or photographic memory as it's often called, became obvious to all of us when I learned my general orders, the code of conduct, and the phonetic alphabet in a fraction of the time as my fellow recruits. But in my case, my amazing memory was masking and compensating for undetected dyslexia, which became obvious to all of us when I marched my troops into the trees for the second time. And suddenly, all those high school detentions made sense. In spite of my questionable push-ups, my drill sergeants genuinely seemed to believe in me. And somehow, I started to believe in myself. It was the weirdest thing. For the first time in my life, my accomplishments were being recognized, rewarded even. 4 years later, I was promoted to sergeant. 2 years after that, I was selected for drill sergeant school myself, a huge honor for any non-commissioned officer. Sadly, my orders came the day after I'd signed out of the Army. But this presentation is not meant to be propaganda for joining the military. Instead, it's a lesson in how a catalyst can come in any shape or size and change everything, and why we need to be brave enough to let it. Fail early, fail often. You've probably heard this before. It took me a few dozen times before it didn't hurt anymore, and I could begin to see that my early struggles were actually valuable learning opportunities. And those struggles have a name: twice exceptional. Researchers are now studying gifted students with learning disabilities, and what they're finding is that the two cancel each other out, causing the student to seem average but underachieving and lazy. We now know otherwise, but in the beginning, the world was flat. New information can cause dramatic changes. This new information about myself caused me to realize I'm not a failure at all. And I was finally able to start putting together some sort of a plan for success. I disregarded the guidance counselor's advice and took some classes. After my second quarter at Pierce College, guess what? I was invited to join Phi Theta Kappa, the International Honor Society. It's not that I couldn't learn, I just learned differently. Me and about 5% of the population. What I'd been doing all along is called self-directed learning. When I owned the Mustang, I taught myself to fix it to keep it running. Later, I became interested in the events industry. After coordinating 1,500 events here at Town Hall, I taught myself leatherworking and became an artist. Now I'm focused on that intersection between art, tech, and trash, and I'm curious to see where that will lead. Today, we have access to learn whatever our hearts desire. As you learn, share what you know with others. Teach a class. Host a meetup. Believe in someone long enough for them to figure out how to believe in themselves. They might have been that weird kid too. Thank you for letting me share my story with you. I'm Tamara Clammer, one of the doers at Brown Paper Tickets. I would like to leave you with one request: never stop learning. Thank you.